Today on Samcraft, we have the very first real project from the brand new Thunder Nova 3500 watt laser. What exactly are we going to make? This guy. Hey guys, Sam here and welcome back to Samcraft. That's right, the Nova is set up. I have tested the waters, I've got the hang of everything, and I'm ready to cut some material and make my first project. Like all projects in the world of laser engraving, they start over here on the computer, and in the Thunder's case, in lightburn, which is fantastic because lightburn is the end-all be-all laser control software. My first step for this project is to load the file in lightburn, which I've already done, scale it to the size that I want it to be, which I've already done, and also something I'm going to do, since this will be a painted project, is to go ahead and set lightburn to do an outline on the outside vectors of all these shapes, change that to a different layer, and turn those settings way down to my score setting, and actually a little bit lower than the score setting for the material, because I'm going to use that to run on the material and give myself an outline of all these layers first. You'll see why in just one second, but let's go ahead and load the material into the machine, send over this outline file, and run that first. The big perk of the Thunder is that you can fit sheets, well, okay, larger than this will fit on the bed of this Thunder. This is a product that I purchased from Home Depot. I'll put a link to it down below. It is Pure Bond 1/4 inch birch plywood. This is something that is very popular in the laser communities. Being from Home Depot is pretty readily accessible and available to everyone, but most importantly, I can buy this in full 4-foot by 8-foot sheets, cut it down to the sizes I want, and get the most use out of a large bed laser like the Thunder. This particular sheet is an offcut from a larger piece, so it is only 30 inches wide and about 23.5 inches deep. It still doesn't fill up the bed of this laser. This is amazing. I love the size of this. Anyway, before I geek out too much on the bed size, let's go ahead and place this where I want. You're going to notice some blue masking tape. Just ignore that for now. I'm toying around with a couple of different ideas and things that I picked up from my friends. Different tips and tricks. But I'm going to put it into place where I want. And now, I'm going to use these guys, some little hold downs that I cut out, to hold the piece in place, to keep it flat, but also not let it move. There we go. Next thing I want to do is to bring the laser over here to the material and go ahead and focus this. You can do the auto focusing with the Thunder, which, you know what, let's go ahead and do that. Let's check it. See how well it works on a sheet this big. The reason I hesitate is it may have some waves in the middle and it might not be correct, but let's go ahead and test it first. Alright, so here on the Thunder's control board, I'm going to go to Menu, and Autofocus is the one that's always highlighted first, so I'll just press the Enter button. When I do that, it's going to start raising the bed up, and will stop whenever that wood breaks the beam between the two sensors. I want to move you over to that so you can see it, because this is not going to change. And now I'm going to use this little piece of acrylic that came with the machine to check the focus. Honestly, that looks really good. So we'll go ahead and roll with that. We're going to autofocus it. While we're here, I'm going to go ahead and set the origin. So I'm going to move the laser to the right using the keypad and bring it down. The first thing I want to do is make sure I'm not going to hit my hold down clamp or cut it off. So we'll do right there, looks good. Now I want to back it up towards the top of the wood, and that looks pretty good. So on my keypad, I'm now pressing origin, and this has been set. So now if I move the laser anywhere, so to the right and forward, and then I press escape on the touchpad, that is the same thing as telling it to go to the origin point. Takes me right where I want to be, and that is perfect. Since we have already focused the laser, set our origin, put our material in there, clamped it down, the next thing to do is go to the keypad here, press on File, select the file, highlight it, tap Enter. It'll pull it up on the display screen. From there, I always like to press Frame so it frames out the job one last time to double check everything. As long as that looks good, the next thing you press is the Start Pause button. It's over at the bottom right, and away you go. that looks great. So now I'm going to go ahead and press start, and it's going to run the score job. One of the perks of doing a video as you're doing a project is when you mess up, which I just did, it means, welp, now you got to explain it to your viewers. I messed up because I forgot to add a layer or two that was in the material. When I imported it into Lightburn, the colors, I thought I selected one, changed it all to a different layer, and ended up merging 2 layers together. So that was on me. That being said, I'm going to rerun the score job on this new layout. It's going to be very different. I'm going to do it right over top of what I've already scored, which I would not do for a customer project, but for this video and for this guy, I'm going to do that so I don't waste the material. Okay, so here's the whole reason that I did that. Why did I just do all that stuff? That's because this is going to be a painted layered sign, and I want to apply the paint first, then cut it out. By doing my score lines, I now know exactly where the sign is going to be cut out from, exactly where to paint what colors, and not be too wasteful. This is going to be great. So let's go ahead and grab my paint, my foam brushes, and we'll paint it in place. Yes, in place. Don't freak out. It's okay. It'll be fine. I can already tell if I do this a lot more, which I plan to do, I'm going to have to buy these in bulk. Or better yet, I need to get a sink put in my workshop so I'm not wasting these brushes over and over for a project for paint colors. Alright guys, all my paints have been painted on the wood, so I'm going to turn my dial from my fume extraction all the way up, give it about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and then we'll run this job. Our time is just about up and everything is looking nice and dry in there. So one thing that I've done with my cut settings, I've already pre-dialed them in for this material. It cuts at 35 millimeters per second. I just went ahead and adjusted it down to 32 millimeters per second just in case that paint gives a little more resistance. I honestly don't know. This is my first project on this machine and is my first time doing a paint and then cut job. So yeah. Talk about a lot of variables going on in this formula, but hey, that's what makes it fun, right? It's going to work or it's going to not. Either way, come on over here, let's press start on that job and see what happens. There we have it. Okay, let's see if it cut through, right? What do we grab first? Let's just grab the entire sheet of material. So I'll take off my little hold fast clamps. And yeah, 1, 2, 3, here we go. Awesome. Look at that. Man, that's, oh, gosh. If you don't have a laser, you're probably like, wow, Sam, you're excited. Yes, that right there, removing the waste, it just feels good. Okay, let's go and get these guys out. Awesome. Awesome. Man, perfect cuts from the Thunder. That's it. Run your mouth, then you have one that sticks. All right, let's set it aside. Looking good. Even through some of these knots and junk. Very cool. That is a thin cut. I didn't know it was going to be that thin. And that one's even thinner. Careful, careful, Sam. There we go. Awesome. Let's go take this stuff to the work table. Alright guys, here we go. And like I said, these are super, super thin. I didn't realize it was going to be this thin. This is really also designed to be really large. I did scale this down quite a bit. Let's go ahead and start just laying these layers on top of each other. I'm guessing as I go, so I may have to redo some of these if the layers don't line up correctly. Boy, that really almost hides that green totally. I think it was then white, super thin, and black. That is really cool, and then very different too. Not what I was expecting, but what do I expect when your 9 layers make one chunky sign? But otherwise, pretty cool, right? It's got some interesting depth going on there, that's for sure. Huh. Okay, let's figure out how to glue these guys together. Alright guys, my best bet for gluing these together is going to be some of this heavy duty spray adhesive. Hopefully this guy is not all gummed up, because it's old. Hopefully it's not. You guys can really see how well prepared I am, right? Either way, let's pick at this guy for a second, and then we'll hit this with a coat, and hopefully this will work very well. We'll let that sit for a second, let it get really tacky, and then we will transition over here to start gluing everything on top of the base plate. This one did not get any glue on it because it's the bottom. This is one of those times where I'm really glad that I have this work table built, because honestly it needs to be this big. I have other stuff on here other than just this one project, but still having the room to do this kind of stuff is very, very important. I'm not under any illusion that everyone can have something like this. I definitely, coming from my smaller shops that I've always had, I would have been doing this outside. Be honest. Outside is a lot of our great outdoor workshops. So don't get me wrong when I understand that not everyone has shops big enough, but this is really nice and handy to have. It's cool. I appreciate it. I can definitely appreciate having the surface. Here is the bottom plate. It is our base. And now we'll just grab one layer at a time, being very careful to align the perimeters. Push it down and glue them together. Hopefully it works. So far so good. This is, I think, layer number 5 out of 9. So this is the just over halfway point. The layers are staying aligned pretty well, doing good. And so far this adhesive does feel like it's working very well too. When I go to pick the pieces up, they definitely are sticky, so that's good. I know it's definitely the way that I guess you would call this a sign perhaps. This file is made in a way that the layers do stack and it adds a lot of depth. But it's kind of a bummer. I just did the blue layer and the only thing visible is a little triangle there. Otherwise, it's just adding depth. You don't even have it here in the middle. Maybe I messed up. Maybe it should be there. Or maybe the file needs a little further tweaking. Either way, you never really know with this stuff until you make it. And it's fun to learn. We're to the last top layers. And these are absolutely the skinniest layers. I'm just amazed that the Thunder Laser, one, cut through all of this with no problem, but also such thin little cuts, and it didn't burn through and ruin them. That's really cool. It really is. Alright guys, last layer. At this point, I'm going to flip it upside down so that the weight of the object can help glue itself into place. But then I'll add just a little bit of weight on top of this as well to add a little bit of down pressure. Guys, I've got to say that I'm really impressed and happy with the way this turned out. Sure, there is some soot marks still left, and in a perfect world, or for a customer, I definitely would have touched those up, probably repainted and cleaned them up better. But for me, for the sake of getting this project done and video done in a timely manner, I'm happy with it. I could also say it adds some rustic character to it, right? There's always the option to call something rustic if you don't want to go through the steps of making it flawless. In a way, it almost kind of works though, because you've got a lot of the layer depth. You see a lot of the dark brown from cutting the layers with this design, and it almost looks good, so I'm going to leave it. Obviously, I've already glued it. So for my first real project off the Thunder, this guy turned out really nice. I'm also so impressed with the Thunder. The fact that it worked through all of the layers of all the material and everything with all of its flaws, no problem at all. Super fast for cutting this stuff. Yeah, I can't say enough. And I really look forward to having a lot more projects from the Thunder, both for video reasons, personal reasons, and of course, business reasons. If you guys got any questions or comments for me, leave them for me down below. Otherwise, take care. I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.